children. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. You are listening to your friendly teacher podcaster, Rodora B. Enciso of Dodon Elementary School, Apari East District, Apari, Cagayan. This is a platform where I teach while you listen. At this point in time, get your books, modules, or learning activity sheets and make sure that you are in a most comfortable place as we learn our new topic in Science 5, which is all about erosion. This episode will teach you about erosion and how it is related to weathering. In addition to this, you will then learn the different causes of erosion and other factors contributing to it. But before we proceed to our main topic, let's have first a quick review on our previous lesson about weathering. So what is weathering? Can you still recall what weathering is? Very good. Weathering is a process when huge rocks are broken into pieces. And what about causes of weathering? That's right. Water, wind, ice, heating and cooling of the earth are causes of weathering. We also call them agents of weathering. This time, listen carefully as I talk about erosion. What is erosion? Erosion is the process that washes away surface materials and moves them from one location to another. And how does erosion differs from weathering? They differ in a way that the agents of weathering are responsible for breaking of rocks, and these rocks brought about by weathering are transported into other places by the process called erosion. Like weathering, erosion is caused by wind and water. The continuous action of these two forces contributes to the vast amount of soil on the surface of the earth. And what about weathering? Weathering occurs so slowly. This is why we seldom notice it. Unlike erosion, which is so rapid that we easily see the result of its force. Finer particles of rocks are carried away by agents of erosion like wind and water. As soon as the particles are removed from where they are formed, the surface of the rock is again open to another forces of weathering. In some cases, weathering and erosion occur simultaneously. When flowing water and strong wind aid for the process of weathering, it is also at the same time result to erosion. That is why weathering and erosion comes place into place. There are kinds of erosion. They are water erosion, splash erosion, sheet erosion, wind erosion, erosion by gravity, and glacial erosion. We will talk first about water erosion. This happens when rainfall sinks on the ground. When the ground can no longer absorb the rain, the water will look for its way to flow. We call it the water runoff. This runoff dissolves fine rock particles as it flows. The strong force of the runoff carries pebbles, sand, and finer particles on its way down to another place where it will be deposited. This process is called deposition. To explain further how water aids in erosion, we are going to have an experiment. Get 3 rectangular containers with 12 inches length, 6 inches width, and 3 inches depth, same amount of soil until it is 1 inch below its brim. I will give you 10 seconds to get these materials. Are you ready to have the experiment? Okay, very good. So this is what you are going to do. On the first container, put a 12 by 6 inches soil with carabao grass. On the second container, put some dried leaves on top of the soil. On the third container, leave it as it is, meaning do not put anything on top of the soil. After putting some grass and dried leaves, pour 1 liter of water to each container. Observe what happens to the soil and water. So what did you notice? This experiment shows that water reacts differently to the 3 kinds of soil in every container. Let's see if you have the same perspective about the result of the experiment. In the first container, the 1 liter water is being absorbed totally by the soil. The water residue that overflows is very clear. This means that the grass helps the soil not to be washed away by water. It also means that grass or plants can reduce the effect of soil erosion. The soil in the second container also absorbs water with minimal residue of sand particles. This also explains that the dried soil prevented the flow of sand particles in the water. The soil in the second container also absorbs water with minimal residue of sand particles. This explains that the dried leaves prevented the flow of sand particles in the water. In the third container, water is also absorbed, but there were more sand particles that flow with the water. This means that without any grass or dried leaves that protect the topsoil, there is greater possibility of soil erosion. Did you learn something about this activity? Of course, and I just hope so. Another kind of erosion is the splash erosion. This happens during rainy season. Loose soil that is not protected by covering like grass or dried leaves will be carried away by the force of raindrops. Have you experienced staying under the rain with an umbrella? Raindrops falling make noise on your umbrella or even on the roofs of your house, meaning raindrops also exert pressure with their weight. The harder the rainfall, the greater splash erosion will be noticed. Another kind of erosion is the sheet erosion. This happens when the soil cannot immediately absorb water during heavy rains. If there is more water than what the soil can absorb, water then flows in broad sheets across wide area, causing sheet erosion. These 2 kinds of erosion, the splash and sheet erosion, are greatly feared by farmers because they remove valuable topsoil from the land, making the farms less productive. But aside from washing away fertile layer of the soil, Sheet erosion also produces gullies while ruining crops. What do we mean by gullies? Gullies spells as Gullies. Gullies. These are large channels produced during hard rainfall where water flows in large amount. Another kind of erosion is the wind erosion. Try to recall your experience during windy day. Did you feel the dust blown by the wind? Where did it came from? These dust particles picked up by the wind, they are deposited into other places, forming hills called sand dunes. These are piles of sand with several meters high. The process of wind carrying away loose sediment is called deflation. Deflation occurs primarily in desert regions. As the wind blows along the ground, it scoops up and carries away the loose sediments such as sand and dust. The same process of wind carrying away rock particles on rock surfaces is called abrasion. Abrasion occurs when sharp edges of rocks break another rock. It breaks into particles borne by strong wind. These two processes, the deflation and abrasion, are results of wind erosion. So to avoid deflation and abrasion, what must people do? Oh yes! People must not leave the soil unplanted, meaning growing plants and trees must done. We must learn to love planting. Do you love planting flowering plants or fruit-bearing trees? Yes, we have to plant vegetables and fruits-bearing trees in our surroundings. In this way, we can help in the prevention of soil erosion. Another kind of soil erosion is the erosion by gravity. This happens when bits of rocks from a higher ground fall down to a lower level because of gravity. Anyway, let's have a bit review on gravity. What is gravity? That's right. Gravity is the pulling force towards the center of the earth. As what you've learned in our previous discussions, everything on the earth's surface is pulled toward its center. This means that everything thrown on upper level have the tendency to fall down. Try to throw a ball or a stone up above. What happens to the object? Correct. It will automatically fall down. And why? Very good. It's because the Earth's gravity pulls everything down or towards its center. Can you picture it in your mind? I hope so. When gravity moves rocks and soil down a slope, it is called mass movement. Mass movement happens when broken particles are on a steep slope or at the edge of a cliff. They roll down faster and carry with them other particles on their way. This is the reason why piles of rocks are at the bases of cliffs and mountains. Another situation to explain erosion by gravity is when a slope of soil moves slowly downhill without being noticed. This sudden movement of soil going downslope is called landslide. This occurs after heavy rains or earthquakes. Now, I am asking you this question. What do you think is the reason why landslide usually happens to areas near the foot of the mountains. That is right. Landslide is possible to areas near the foot of the mountain because rocks on the upper layer of the mountain are pushed by flowing water, causing it to run down. Therefore, the soil to loosen its particles that may result to landslide. Other kind of erosion is the glacial erosion. This kind of erosion is not familiar to us. Why? Because when we say glacial, it means ice or snow. Since we do not experience snow in the Philippines, glacial erosion may seem uncommon. Am I not correct? But for you to understand what glacial erosion is, this happens when piles of snow become too tight and increase in weight. The snow underneath or at the bottom starts to partially melt, causing the glacier of ice to crack and move, and as it moves, it scrapes and scratches the bedrock and soil, resulting glacial erosion. There are also other factors affecting erosion. These are human activities such as: number 1, deforestation. What is deforestation? This happens when mountains become clear of trees because of illegal logging. No roots from trees can hold the soil. The tendency is erosion will be of great possibility. Number 2 is the intensive farming. What is this intensive farming? When farmers use excessive fertilizers, the quality of good soil decreases. Erosion will be much easy to happen on farmlands. And the last one we have house development and road construction. When forests or mountains are transformed into housing facilities or construction sites for roads, the soil becomes bare and its surface can readily be affected by agents of erosion like wind and water. Now that you have already learned about soil erosion, its kinds and factors affecting it, let's see if you learned something about what was explained earlier. This time, identify what is being asked from the given questions. Number 1. What do we call the process that washes away surface materials and move them from one place to another? Correct. We call it erosion. Number 2. What process is it when rocks are broken into pieces? Very good. It is weathering. Number 3. What kind of erosion is it when strong rainfall carries away pebbles, sand, and smaller particles into another place where it will be deposited? That's right. It is water erosion. Number 4. What is it when loose soil are carried away by force of raindrops? Yes, very good. It is splash erosion. And for number 5, what is it when water flows in broad sheets across wide areas? Very good. We call it sheet erosion. Number 6. What about this one? It happens when sand dunes were formed, brought about by strong wind. Correct. It is wind erosion. And how about this one? It happens when bits of rocks from higher ground fall down due to gravity. Excellent! We call it erosion by gravity. Did you enjoy learning with today's topic, children? Let's then wrap everything what we discussed today. Are you ready? Very good. So what is erosion? Very well explained. Very good. Erosion is a process when surface materials or soil is being washed away, moving it from one place to another. And if erosion can also wash away good soil, what must we do to prevent it? Excellent! We must plant vegetables, fruits, and other kinds so there will be more roots to hold the soil on the ground. In that way, we can help prevent soil erosion. Alright, you all did a great job today. Thank you for listening to our podcast on today's lesson about erosion, its kinds, and factors affecting it. I hope that you'll find time again to listen with me, your teacher podcaster, Rodora B. Enciso, saying, learning is fun when I teach while you listen. See you again next time on the next topic. For your comments, questions, or suggestions, you can also find me on my YouTube channel at Teacher Do. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.